What's up, my friends? Welcome. Complete set review, Adventures of the Forgotten Realms, D&D, crossover, let's go. We do every card. We do limited, constructed, anything you missed, you already did white, blue, black, red, and green. So most set review is over. So watching on YouTube, go watch those videos if it's your first time here. Watching on Twitch, hi. Go watch those videos when they go up on YouTube later. And we're doing multicolor now. And there's some exciting cards in the multicolor section, let me tell you. We're going to start off here with Adult Gold Dragon. And again, as a player who's never played D&D before, these names just look so silly to me. Like, they're like placeholder names, you know, like Adult Gold Dragon. Oh, all right, but apparently it's like a thing that dragons are done by their age or whatever. Sure, whatever. 5 mana for a 4/3 lifelink flying haste. If this had the 4th toughness, it would be probably one of the best players in the set. That 3rd toughness, though, I've been saying earlier, you know, with some other 4/3s, 4/3 is not a great stat line for constructed because it dies to a lot of stuff, especially on a 5 mana card. Now, this card is definitely very powerful against aggro decks. It's cool that it has haste. It's kind of cool that this card is like very, very good on the ends of the spectrum. Very good against aggro decks. And then against mid-range stuff, they're kind of just going to kill it. But then against more controlling decks, like the haste is really good, which is kind of nice too. So, yeah, it does die to bolt, you know, and that's pretty a problem. It trades Elite Spellbinder, absolutely. So, I think Adult Gold Dragon is probably more of a sideboard card than anything else. Whether you're boarding it in against, you know, creature decks, or you're just a control deck and you want a haster against the other control decks, you board it in there. But, I think on average, this card is just a little not good enough. It's funny because I think if it was a 3/4, it actually would be a lot better and more main deckable. But I think this card's a little less exciting than it looks, although I might be wrong about that. Very contextual to what kill spells are being played in the format and how vulnerable it is. But definitely a constructed role player for sure. In limited, go nuts. We lost to a deck last night in our Sweatsuit Invitational tournament that had 2 of these. And yeah, we lost. We lost real bad. So, yeah. And then limited, yeah, just busted card. Busted card. That's Adult Gold Dragon. Our next card is Bard Class. This card is up. Holy crap. If you haven't watched my 10 New Brews, the second deck we played was, I called it the Bard's Tale. It was a Gruul Legend deck. And it was unbelievably good. One of the most successful decks I've ever had in a 10 New Brews. We steamrolled our opponents 5-0 in like 20 minutes. It was incredible. And this card is just, it's narrow, but exceedingly powerful. Red-green for a class card. First chapter is legendary creatures enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them. That's good. So like every legend's now a little bit bigger. So that's good. Not amazing, but good. Chapter 2 is red-green. Legendary spells you cast cost a red and a green less to cast. This effect reduces the colored mana cost. So, if I have a Gallia of Endless Dance, which is their red-green legend, that card is now free. That's right, free. That's a real freaking deal. And not only is it free, it gets a +1/+1 counter too. And there's no limit on the amount of legends you can play for free like this. So for example, you can go turn 2 Bard Class. You can go turn 3, pay red-green. Say you play a land. You can play a 3-drop Gruul Legend for 1 mana. And then play a Gruul Legend for free. 2-drop Legend for free. We put 8 power on the board on turn 3 and attack for 4. We went Grumgully into Gallia. They're both 4/4s, attack for 4. And, like, they're still there. Bard Class is still there. And you just kind of keep going. Then Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is where things get wonky. I figured Chapter 3 was totally irrelevant. It was like, all right, whatever. You could, like, maybe get some cards. 5 mana's a lot, whatever. Chapter 3 is unreal. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Now, if you're playing all Gruul Legends, the cost reduction is still there. So you like play a 1 mana 3-drop, you reveal a 2-drop, you play a 2-drop for free, reveal 2 more cards, and you just go off. We had an opponent wrath us and the next turn I put 5 creatures in play and killed them. Just insane. So yeah, Song Creation, double black, not Black Lotus, double whatever Mox. Like the card, the ceiling of this card is so unbelievably high. Deck list is on YouTube. I'll put the link in chat. All right, you have to go watch the video because it was the most exciting deck by such a large margin. It was unbelievably good, and like I'll put the link in chat. Just like the deck list is in my article. This card is just so good. You got to see it in action. I don't know. I would not have picked this as my best in show if we hadn't played with it already. This is usually my set reviews are done before we play with the cards, but like they just released the set and then released the set 2 days later, so I didn't have time. But yeah, cards busted. It's just so good. It is contingent on the number of Gruul costed legends in the format. For example, one standard rotates Grumgully, Gallia, Cloithus. A number of the red-green legends rotate, so the card will be weaker in that respect. It's a card that definitely needs to have a particular amount of a certain type of card, but if it has that, oh my god, it goes off. It goes off. In limited, not so good, but constructed, super cool card. Moving on to Barrowin of Clan Udar. Excuse me, I'm sorry. 4 mana for a 3/3, legend, Dwarf Clerk. Comes into play, you venture, and then if you've completed a dungeon, whenever it attacks, you can return a creature that costs 3 or less. This card is a lot better than it looks. A lot better than it looks. A 3/3 that ventures for 4 is okay, but this is this is a top level limited card, because even without the second text, it would be good. With the second text, it's phenomenal. One attack and you're way off the charts here. I think this card is a borderline playable constructed card if you are all in on dungeons and all in on venturing and stuff like that. If you're all in on it, it's not too hard to finish a dungeon. And this card returns the white legend. It costs 3 for more triggers and stuff like that. So, card's pretty cool. Great limited card. Fringe constructed card, possibly. A lot better than it looks. A lot better than it looks for sure. Our next card here is Battle Hammer. A Boros 5/3 for 4. Pretty good. Each creature you control gets +2/+0 for each equipment on it. And you may play 0 rather than pay the equip cost for the first equip ability you activate this turn. This card reminds me a lot of the Lorehold Signpost Legend in that it's extremely powerful if it works, but all the cards to make it work suck. So it feels like a real big trap to me in limited. Obviously a 5/3 for 4 is like pretty reasonable regardless. So like you're not being, it's not like you're like overpaying for this. But I don't think this is going to be as good as you want it to be because I think the equipment cards are pretty bad. But still very solid draft card for sure, even just on stats alone. But I wouldn't expect to get a ton out of this card. And the fear is that if you build your deck around this card and don't draw it, I think you're playing too many bad cards. So not really super huge on this card, but it's still the rate of a 5/3 4/4 is very reasonable. So that's fine. We can move on. The art is pretty cool. Up next is, come on, it's not even words. Drizzit Durden, a 5 mana Selesnya 3/3 double strike, which is already pretty good. When it comes into play, you make a Gwenyivar, a legendary 4/1 cat token with trample. And then whenever a creature dies, if it had power greater than Drizzit's power, put a number of +++ counters on Drizzit equal to the difference. This is a lot of freaking power for one card. You get a 3/3 double striker and a 4/1 for 5 mana. I don't know. I'm not sure what deck wants this card. Some sort of like go wide, green white, tokeny something or other deck. But there's a lot of raw rate here on power. Yeah, it's also pretty cool that the double strike. So if I attack this into a creature, and the double strike kills that creature, it will grow before regular damage, which is kind of cool too. So definitely a cool card. Obviously, it's legendary. It's kind of cool. It's an elf. It's a ranger. One of those cards where it's like, it's got a lot of power. I don't know where it goes, but there's certainly a lot of raw power here. Busted and limited. Just busted. Like, no, it's wherever a creature dies, period. Anywhere. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where it goes. It's busted and limited. It's definitely playable and constructed if the right deck is there for it. But yeah, so I don't know. Cool card. Up next is Farida, Devil's Chosen. This is a 4-mana Izzet card, a 3/3 for 4, and whenever you roll one or more dice, it gets Flying and Menace till end of turn. If any of those results was 10 or it gets Flying and Menace no matter what. And then if any of the results was 10 or higher, you draw a card. So this is your big payoff for being rolling dice. This is your signpost. Is it uncommon? It's all about die rolls. And like I said, in a lot of the Izzet cards, the die roll is almost more important than the effect. You know, the effect's like Scry 1 or Scry 2, whatever. But the fact that you're rolling a die and triggering cards like this is pretty important. So very good payoff for that deck. Obviously very narrow, but very, very good. This card stays in play for a few turns. You're probably in really, really good shape. Next card is Fighter Class, and just another freaking Boros card with equipment. Why do they do this? I don't understand. Like, they're never good. So Boros comes into play, search for an equipment, and put it into your hand. Okay. Level 2, for 3 mana, equip cost 2 less to activate. But you're wasting your mana on this thing. So it's like, it is kind of cool. You can now you can, put your equipment all over the place, which is kind of cool. Then 5 mana for level 3. Whenever a creature you control attacks up to 1 target creature this combat, or blocks it this combat if able. I have no faith in this equipment deck being a good archetype in limited. Just no faith at all. It replaces itself, which is kind of cool. I mean, making your equip cost lessen. But again, the problem with this is sort of like the Battle Hammer. If you play a bunch of equipments and then don't draw this card, your deck just sucks. So like the fail state is just like not good. So I'm not a believer at all. No belief here. No belief here. Up next is Gretchen Itchwillow. Blue and green, we love our Simic cards. For an 0/4, Halfling, Hobbit, Druid. Pay 4, draw a card. You put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. I like this card. I just love drawing cards and putting lands into play. And the fact it's an 0/4 means it's really, really durable, which is great. We see this like, I forget the name of the one in Strixhaven. It was a 1/2 though. It was very, very fragile. So being an 0/4 on turn 2 helps to buy you the time you need to utilize this card, and that is pretty cool. Probably a great draft card. Not really sure what the theme is in Simic. It's just like draw cards and play lands, I guess. But definitely a very, very solid draft card. And then in Constructed, this card could see play in Constructed. This card plays very well with counter spells, stuff like that. You leave your mana up, and you say go, and you counter a spell, and you activate this and whatever. But whether it's a deck that can actually do that, we'll see. But the power level is certainly there. It's simply a very, very solid card. But yeah, I don't know. Up next is Hammer Pasture Runeseeker. Busted and limited. And then I think this card is also playable and constructed if you're venturing. Being able to trigger your ventures twice is really, really good. You make 2 tokens, get 2 counters, draw 2 cards, etc., and that's pretty nice. It is amusingly bad with the one that makes legendary 4/4. But aside from that, this card's super solid. The body's pretty good. Fringe playable and constructed. And then definitely limited bomb. This is your blue and white venture is definitely a big thing. You want to keep venturing over and over again and grinding. And this card does that really, really well. Decent body also. Very, very solid card. Definite high power signpost uncommon for blue-white decks in limited. Up next is Calen, Reclusive Painter. It's a trap. I'm just not about these Rakdos treasure cards. This card, it's just not good. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's a 1/2 Wily Goblin, which isn't that bad, honestly. Which honestly isn't that bad. But the payoff ability is whenever you sack a treasure to play a creature, that creature has an extra +1/+1 counter. That's like okay, but is it worth playing Wily Goblin? Like it's the your deck needs to really, really want a Wily Goblin to want this card, and most decks don't want Wily Goblin. In fact, the only deck I've ever seen that wanted Wily Goblin was actual Goblins, because you're playing Goblin synergy stuff and you're playing Muxus. So I think this card's pretty bad. I do think in limited this card is pretty reasonable, because the treasure makers are numerous enough and playable enough that this card's probably a very solid limited card for that archetype. But I think in constructed, I think this card's just like almost totally unplayable. Unless your deck wants Wily Goblin. If your deck wants Wily Goblin, sure. But aside from that, just not super excited about this card. I think it's not going to play nearly as good as it looks at all. I'm just pretty unenthused. Up next is Cradle of Baldur's Gate. I don't know much about D&D, but I know Baldur's Gate was a computer game, right? Right? Did I get it right? I got it right. I'm good. Blue, black, 1/3 rogue. Whenever it does combat damage to a player, that player loses 1 life and mills a card, and then you gain 1 life and scry 1. That is okay. Somewhat middling. Milling a card is whatever. Losing a life, sure. Gaining a life is fine. Scrying 1's okay. But this is a sorcery speed 1/3, which is not super exciting. Whenever you attack, you may pay 2. If you do, a creature can't be blocked this turn. What makes rogues good in standard is they all have flash, and they all have evasive abilities that don't cost mana. So as far as constructed goes, I don't think this card's very, very good. Limited, it's great. Definitely a very reasonable card. Making things unblockable is great. The body is reasonable enough. Very, very good draft card. But as far as constructed goes, I struggle to think of a deck that would want to play this card. It's just too clunky and too unexciting. And, it being a rogue doesn't really matter. Just not really about it in constructed. Limited, great. Signpost uncommon for your rogue deck in limited. But up next is somebody called Igor. Aww. Minsk Beloved Ranger. Naya mana for a 3/3. I feel like every legend. I want to count actually of what % of legends in the last 2 years have been 3 mana 3/3s. I feel like it's every single one. Like every single one, a 3 mana 3/3 every time. In Kaldheim, there were like a dozen of them. So I have no idea what Go for the Eyes means. Everyone keeps saying that over and over again. Probably some story beat I don't know about. But yeah. So 3/3 legend for 3. When it comes into play, you make Boo a legendary 1/1 red hamster token with trample and haste. So right there on rate, a 3/3 for 3 with a 1/1 also is not bad. It's 4 power over 2 bodies, pretty solid. Then it has the ability of X. Until end of turn, a creature you control has base power of his XX and becomes a giant as a sorcery. So good mana sink. You're just late in the game. You got 5 mana in play. You're kind of flooding a bit. All right, well that's a 6/6 now or whatever. Cool. So that's kind of cool. And then yeah, I mean the rate here is mostly here. The main issue is I don't know what deck really wants this card. It's a 3-color card. It's not really a synergy card in that like it's pretty good on rate, but nothing about it is like it does this thing really, really well, So certainly mildly playable, but overall not super.
Boo!
He's so unhappy right now.
He was very cranky with me.
He hates you.
He looked at me.
He
was
hates
like,
you.
Are you kidding?
Go for the eyes, Boo. Go for the eyes.
I brought him carrots.
Go for the eyes. Igor wants to know.
Igor heard the carrots.
Igor wants to know what the hell is going on.
Oh, Igor.
Are you gonna pee on me?
Igor's birthday's coming up.
Igor's birthday is coming up.
It's next week.
Igor's very upset that we can spoil this
card. It would have been the nicest birthday present ever.
Yeah, and they wouldn't.
Igor does not get many birthdays.
All right, so
it would have been very, very nice, but
evil Wizards of the Coast.
They're so mean.
They're so mean.
Poor Igor. His birthday wish.
All right, so
he's getting a carrot.
Igor's getting a carrot.
He's getting a carrot.
If you let him pee, I'll bring him back over here. So anyway, yeah, so cool on rate, pretty fun card, but I'm not really sure what this card like wants to do. wants to do his Igor cam working? It is working.
Ooh, carrot. He was going in his bed, and then he was like, wait, I smelled something.
Forget the set review. Set review's over. Igor got a carrot.
Igor
Go for the carrot, Igor. Go for the carrot.
Oh, he's so happy. Oh.
All right.
And he's
Anyway.
eating it. He's not even pouching it.
Oh, he's hammering that carrot. Look at him go. He's really going.
Yeah, he is.
He's really going. All right.
Oh,
Anyway,
we're happy.
now I've completely destroyed the immersion and everything else.
That was me.
Let's
by
move.
the way.
Let's move on here. Thanks, Toads. Appreciate it. All right. Anyway, moving on to the monk class. So we have a blue and a white, and the second spell you cast each turn costs 1 less to cast. That's like okay. It's kind of a weird effect because typically you'd want that on like a more like the second spell mechanic is usually much more aggressive. No magic, only Igor. He's still going. He's still going. So like the second spell thing is it's weird. I'm not sure when you're casting like 2 spells in your blue-white deck and you want the cost reduction. It's a thing though. I mean, cost reduction is a real thing for sure. Level 2 is when it's a triggered ability. When you go to level 2, you get the bounce of non-land permanent. That's also not bad either. It's 4 mana bounce creature or whatever. That's kind of fine. Level 3 is at the beginning of your upkeep, exile a top card of your library. For as long as it remains exiled, you may cast this card from exile as long as you've cast another spell this turn. That's pretty good too, honestly. It's a pretty sweet card draw engine. In that you get these cards, they just go off to the side. You cast a spell, cast another spell. The question is, what deck wants this card? It is reasonably powerful on rate for sure. But is it for like a control deck? Is it for an aggro deck? Is it for like if we're playing like a prowessy aggressive deck? Like I don't think we're wasting mana on this. I think we want to just kill our opponent. So like is it more like a mid-rangey deck? I don't know, honestly. I don't know. So it certainly does things that seem to be reasonable things to do, but the real impressive aspect of it is the third level, which costs 7 mana total to get to. So I think this card is probably a dud, but I'm not sure. It seems like a card that you really need to play with to get any sort of a feel for. And these class types are new. They're definitely new. It's a new card type for sure, and it's hard to really play with. I don't know. I don't really know this one. I'm not gonna lie. And then in limited, you're probably not playing this card. I don't think. Actually, in limited, it seems pretty good because you're like using the level 3 pretty well. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not a person who's afraid to say I don't know something, and I don't know how good this card is. It's as simple as that. We're just gonna move on. Orcas, Prince of Undeath. Red, black, 2X. Legendary creature demon. It's a 5/3 flample. Flying trample. When it comes into play, choose one. Each other creature you control gets -X/-X on the turn. You lose X life. Or return up to X target creature cards with a total mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and they gain haste until end of turn. This card is weird. So obviously, 4 mana for a 5/3 flying trample is not good, but fine. It's not like bad. Each other creature gets -X/-X. You lose X life. So it's sort of like a weird, expensive, toxic deluge, but definitely expensive, but reasonably powerful in that respect. In that, like, if he casts this for 6 and kill their entire board, that's pretty good. Massacre Worm style kind of thing. And then the thing is that the return creature effect is about returning cheap creatures. So X target creature cards with total mana value X or less. So I can spend 2 mana to return a 2-drop, or 2 1-drops kind of thing. So like, what deck is playing a bunch of cheap creatures that wants to play this pretty big, expensive demon that also wants to sweep the board a little bit too? I don't really know what this card is supposed to be doing kind of thing. The power level is there, the super part is good, the reanimation part is good, but this card's expensive. So I don't see playing it in a deck of many 1 and 2 drops. I don't know, honestly. And again, what if you just like play this card as a curve topper? You're just like a black-red aggro deck, and you just cast this as a 5/3 sometimes. And then later in the game, you're like, all right, I'll bring back a 2-drop or something like that, you know? So I'm not sure. It's a kind of a weird card. The power is there. I wouldn't be surprised if it saw play at some point in Standard based on rate alone. But it's kind of a weird card. It's sort of a weird template, sort of a weird mixture of abilities for sure. In Limited, it's great. In Limited, a 5/3 flying trample for 4 is awesome. And it only gets better. So it's definitely a bomb in Limited. But as far as in Constructed, I'm not really sure. Honestly, I'm not really sure. Up next is Rogue class. Blue and a black for an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control does combat damage to a player, exile a top card of that player's library face down. You may look at it as long as you want. Sure. So that part is not very good. Doesn't actually do anything. Level 2 is creatures you control have menace. Okay. That's also not super exciting. So 5 mana spent so far, and creatures you control have menace. Then the real payoff here is spend 4 more mana, and now you can play cards you exile with Rogue's class, and spend mana of any color as though or mana to cast those spells. So you play it early, you steal some cards, maybe you get menace, and then later in the game you can pop up to level 3 and start casting their spells. The problem is this is really freaking slow, and it's predicated on a deck that's going to be dealing damage to your opponent over and over again in the early game, and then is very expensive later. So this card just seems completely off to me. Yeah, it's a 9 mana Night Veil Spectre. That's a very good way to put it. I would say that's like a bingo. Right on the money there. It's not a threat by itself. Doesn't really affect the board or do anything. So I think this card's a huge dud. It's a huge dud. Not about it. This could have also been a trap card too, honestly. But yeah, a lot of words that sound kind of cool. But the reality is here, you're spending a lot of mana to do not very much. Not about this card at all. In Limited, sure. In Limited, Menace matters. And in Limited, you'll have time to eventually activate level 3 and go for it. But in Constructed, no chance. This card is really playable Constructed. Not a chance at all. Up next is Shesra, Death's Whisper. This is your Golgari Signpost uncommon. 4 mana for a 1/3. When it comes into play, a creature must block if able. That's not really that good. And then at the end of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. That's also not that good. For a 4 mana 1/3, these effects are pretty tough. You know, obviously drawing cards is great. Reminds me a little bit of the Morbid enchantment from some old set. 4 mana enchantment whenever a creature dies. At the end, if a creature died this turn, draw a card. But 2 life is a lot. You know, it's no joke to keep paying 2 life over and over and over again. And it doesn't block very well either. So it feels like this card is good if the game is slow, but pretty bad otherwise. Pretty bad on rate. And I'm not very pumped with this card. The Signpost, you know, Golgari archetype in draft seems to be based on creatures dying, but I'm not really seeing it as a major theme here. So not very impressive this card. Yeah, it's not super enthused, honestly. We can move on here. And then obviously not playable Constructed gets to 1/3 for 4. Up next is Skeletal Swarming. Now this card I like. 5 mana enchantment. Each skeleton you control has trample, attacks each combat if able, and gets +X/+O, where X is the number of other skeletons you control. Beginning of your end step, create a tapped skeleton creature token. If a creature died this turn, make 2 instead. So this is sort of like Assembled Legion, where it's a 5 mana enchantment. Doesn't do a ton the turn you cast it, but as the game goes on, you're just going to keep getting more and more value off of it. So essentially, you're going to be in a spot where you're attacking with 2 3/1 skeletons every turn. They die, they come back, they get pumped, they die, they come back, they get dumped. If you can put another skeleton in play somehow and get the power even higher, it's really cool. There aren't that many skeletons, but this card seems awesome. It seems like a great limited card. The Walmart Outlaws Merriment. Sure, that's very fair. You know, it's kind of the idea. But yeah, the kind of card where it sits in play and just slowly wins the game. A really bad Assembled Legion. It's definitely, I think it's worse than Assembled Legion, but Assembled Legion was pretty good, you know? So, yeah, Face Haven's a card for sure. There are some skeletons, some changelings, things like that. It's probably not good enough for constructed, but it's a super cool limited card. And just like kind of a fun card in general. I think it does a pretty good job of like, of feeling like a swarm of skeletons, which is kind of cool. So I like it. The card's fun. What are you going to do? Is it the best card ever? No. But up next is Sorcerer class. Blue and red class card. Comes into play, you draw 2, you discard 2. So right off the bat, like, that's not bad. It's not great. It is not card advantage. It's actually card disadvantage if you don't count this card. But if there is, you know, graveyard stuff happening, wanting cards in the graveyard, pretty efficient way to do it, at least for standard. So that's okay. Not great, but okay. Level 2, you spend 2 mana, and creatures you control have tapped to add blue or red, only to cast an instant, a sorcery, or to gain a class level. Now this is really awkward, because if we're playing a lot of spells in our deck, we're not going to have creatures, and then vice versa. So a lot of tension here. A lot of tension. I don't know. Not really super enthused about that second ability. The third ability is 5 mana to level up. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, that spell deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of instant or sorcery spells you've cast this turn. So kind of like a weird combo-y effect. So you go opt, opt, opt. You can like deal some damage to your opponent. But again, like, I don't really know what deck wants this card. Like, the second ability really throws you off because, like, what creatures do you have? You know, like, so it feels like the second ability is like really not very valuable. And if it is, and the third ability isn't that good either, this card's a miss for me. It's just a miss. I don't know. I don't think it's particularly useful. In limited, there doesn't seem to be much spell matters stuff. This is a card that feels like it would have been very, very good in Strixhaven. Like really, really good. Because so many of the spells in Strixhaven were also creatures. So that sort of solves that problem of having creatures that are also enough spell density and also having a creature net density as well. And then to top it all off, this card's an enchantment. It's not a creature or an instant or sorcery. So I don't know. I do think that the level 1 part of this is probably the biggest draw. And everything else is probably just gravy. If you're looking for a way to draw 2 and then discard 2, this does that reasonably well. But the cards like Thrill Possibility are always legal also. So not big on this one. It's a miss. It's a pretty big miss for me. Up next is Targnar, Demon Fang Knoll. Red and green for a 2/2 legend. Pack Tactics. Whenever it attacks, if you attack a creature's total power 6 or greater, your creature gets +1/+0. And you can double its power. It's funny how, like, I think this card is actually really important because of Bard class. Because it's just a red-green Gruul legendary creature. And because of that, it's insanely good Bard class. I think this card's actually a bit powered down because of that. Because this card looks kind of embarrassing when put next to the green wolf with Pack Tactics. Like, that card's a 3/3. It draws cards. It has trample. Where this card's a 2/2. And might pump your team. I think this card is probably powered down because of how good Bard class is. But even then, I still think it's playable with Bard class in particular. So, decent card. Nothing crazy here, but pretty solid. You know, it's got a mana sink, got some abilities on it, but mostly good because of Bard class. In limited, it's obviously great. Just a great 2-drop in limited. But, yeah, mostly this is Bard class. Most of this is Bard class. Up next is Tmat. Tiamat? This card looks really, really important as far as the lore goes. Wooburg and 2 for a 7/7 Dragon God flying. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, search your library for up to 5 dragon cards not named Tiamat that have different names, reveal them, put them in your hand, and shuffle your library. Not quite Niv Mizzet Reborn. Not quite. Obviously, finding more dragons is not nearly as good as just finding good spells. And 7 mana is a lot more than 5, although 7/7 is pretty big. This feels more like a fun, casual commander kind of card. Don't think there's enough dragons in the set to really warrant this. Now, you can get changelings, which is kind of cool. You can get some of the smaller dragons as well, but this feels like overkill in standard. Again, because Wooburg, yes. Because this is 7 mana instead of 5, I think that's the thing that really pushes it off being a possible playable and constructed. Niv Mizzet Reborn is a very good card. I saw it play in Standard, Historic, sees play in Modern. So there's not like, it's not like there's no market for this sort of like, 5 mana Wooburg, draw multiple cards kind of card. But being 7 mana, only finding dragons, this feels like more of a casual card to me. It's cool. It's fun. I would love to cast this card in limited. Don't think that fixing's there for that, but I will definitely, hopefully try at some point. But yeah, Nimbus, it draws Vanishing Verse, it draws bad dragons. Very, very fair. Very, very fair. Cool card, though. Cool card. Cool art, too. Up next is Trelacera, Moon Dancer. And this is a legendary Ajani's Pride Mate. This card is very, very good. Signpost uncommon for your blue, green, white decks in limited. It's a legendary Ajani's Pride Mate, but also scries 1. And that's a huge, huge upside. So a lot of triggers here for your life gain deck. I mean, you know damn well if this card's good or not in your deck. There are some good life gain effects in Standard right now. This card's going to see a lot of play in Constructed. And then Limited is also really, really good. Just a very solid card. Obviously, very, very archetypical. It needs to be in a particular archetype. But in that archetype, it's probably your best card. So, very good card. Triumphant Adventurer. Another really good card. Another archetype card here. White and black for a 1/1 Death Touch. As long as your turn is first strike, which is obviously huge because it makes it very, very hard to block effectively. Whenever it attacks the Venture. So we have a repeating Venture effect here. Again, phenomenal limited card. Off the charts good and limited. And then this card will definitely play Constructed. I'm not sure what colors the Venture deck wants to be, but if it is black and white, this card will fit in perfectly. Multiple Venture triggers, super, super fun, super, super cool card. Also cool because if you pump this with the white Venture Legend and make it a 2/2, it's almost impossible to block. As it stands, you can block it with 2 1/1s, and then it'll kill one, the other will kill it. But if you pump the power on this, it's like impossible to block. So very, very cool. And then worst case scenario, it's just a blocker. It's a death touch blocker if you're in trouble and need to block too. So very good card, very good Venture enabler, and just solid card in general. Great limited card. Definitely going to see playing Constructed. Very solid card. Next up is Volo, Guide to Monsters, a Simic rare, 4 mana for a 3/2. Whenever you cast, hey Igor, what's up, bud? He's awake. He's making his bed. Go for the eyes, Igor. Oops, not that one. Don't look at that. Whenever you cast a creature spell, it doesn't share a creature type with a creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard. Copy that spell. That's a really powerful line of text. So you play your whatever. You play your creature, whatever it is. I don't know. Not Quest Beast Legendary. Whatever. You play your creature and you get 2 of them. But you can only do it once for each creature type. But that's a powerful effect. That's a really powerful effect. It is a 3/2 for 4. It's super stoppable, obviously. Probably more of a fun card than a playable constructed card. But it is really powerful. If you untap with this and constructed, like, you can make some serious moves, which is pretty powerful. So, card's cool. I like it a lot. Looks really fun. I'm sure I'll play it at some point on stream. Probably not winning, a Pro Tour or anything like that, but definitely a really cool, fun card. And then a great limited card. If you untap this in limited, you're in phenomenal shape because the card advantage and the tempo advantage this card's going to create is going to be unbelievable. So, super limited bomb, borderline constructed playable, cool card, and very cool card, and just super cool. Up next is Xanthar, Guild Kingpin, and 6 mana for a 5/6. A lot of words. Beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. Until end of turn, that player can't cast spells. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of your library. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast spells this way. It's the biggest, meanest Thief of Sanity of all time. Again, this is definitely more of a fun card than a good card. Limited bomb, kind of fun, but 6 mana for a 5/6 that might cast spells from your opponent is not super good. Not super good. Until during the player can't cast spells, you may look at the top card of the library anytime. So you can like frenzy their top card to the top card of the library and keep going. That's kind of cool. It stops counter magic, but it's also a 6 mana creature, so they'll just counter this, So yeah, I mean it's fun, it's cute, but what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You're probably gonna lose to it in limited. That's what you're gonna do. That's it for Multicolor. that's it for multicolored. So, we got one section left, our colorless cards, which will be our artifacts and our lands. You two folks, love you. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, please. What cards are good? What cards are bad? How wrong am I about everything, right? You love telling me how wrong I am, YouTube. And please, leave a comment, like the video, subscribe, do all the things you got to do. Helps me out a ton, all right, YouTube? Love you. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. We got one section left.